What's the
This is
latest tech?
CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. This is Python's Paradise, your film and music show, and this is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena. And folks, we have a return guest. We have a wild one on the phone. Yes, and she looks good with a chainsaw. Leatherface is
Thank you.
envious. I have the beautiful and absolutely awesome Genoveva Rossi on the phone. How do you do, Genoveva?
I am doing very, very well. Wow, I had completely forgotten you were Canadian. Oh, wow, that's
Yeah, I'm
exciting.
one of the Canucks. Yep.
I
Let-
miss Canada. I've spent some time there. I miss it. When we shot Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Mania, we shot that in Calgary, Canada.
yeah? Well,
Yeah.
we're in that little spot nobody knows about called New Brunswick, and probably our biggest celebrities are the Trailer Park Boys, which I would recommend you try to get them in one of your movies.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll do some research on that and see about that.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. I've also been to Toronto.
Oh, is
I've
that as far
also
as I've
been.
gone? Yep.
I like it. I like Toronto, and I also have been to Montreal a couple times. I went to the Fantasia Film Festival in Montreal. So I've been to Canada. I think I've spent at least 2 months in Canada. If you count it all together. So I've spent quite a bit of time there. I think Vancouver actually was my favorite part of Canada. I was in Vancouver for like 2 weeks a couple of years ago, visiting my friend Brad Laurie, who was Mike Miles in Halloween Resurrection.
Okay.
And I really loved the temperature, and they kind of had like this little bit of like kind of like this beatnik hippie vibe,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
So
So
you're sit.
Vancouver, I think, was my favorite.
Okay. So you're sitting back having an espresso, huh?
I'm having 4 shots of espresso with a little bit of almond milk thrown in. That's how I like to start my day. I drink a lot of espresso.
And you say you need 4 shots when you do a James Balsamo movie, huh?
No, 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 no. I said 12 shots. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you've ever hung out with James for a while, you need a lot, because James is a very high energy person to work with, and his films are really high energy and crazy. So you need a lot of espresso to really like embrace that and run with that. They're
Well,
crazy madcap movies. They're the kind of movies you watch over and over again when you're drunk or smoking weed or just to kind of get through a tough day.
how many James Balsamo movies have you been in?
Oh, I'm not sure. That's a good question.
Because I know you're in most of them. I know that. I know you weren't in the first one. I think it was Hack Job, I think.
I hadn't met James by then, so I forgive him for not putting me in that.
Yeah. Well, you know
But I
what?
met him.
Yeah.
I met him on the set of Jacko Slasher, and that led to me being in I Spill Your Guts, which was my first James Balsamo film.
What was your favorite of his?
The one that I was in, I guess because I'm nostalgic, I always like I Spill Your Guts, I guess, the best because it was my first, and I got to, it was my first released movie, even though it was the second one we filmed,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to work with Deborah Shawn and Lloyd Kaufman
Mm-hmm.
and James Balsamo and my friends Bob Sachi and a whole bunch of other people. And so that was kind of like a cool introduction to the horror genres. My second film I ever did, the first film that was released, the first film that appears on my IMDb, so everybody considers I Spill Your Guts to be my first film. And my first film with James Balsamo, where he was the director and all. So that was kind of, I guess, my favorite for that reason, because there was a lot of firsts. And I think that was also the film that got me into Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Mania, because his producer had seen it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it had a big impact. A lot of people really liked it. And then afterwards, I was in Cool as Hell,
Mm-hmm.
Catch of the Day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, oh my God, what other movies were there? And then Before the Lich. What was the one before the Lich? I was in the Lich, and I was in Bite School before the Lich, and then there was another one that I was in. Oh my goodness, I was in another one. And now the name is, oh my God, the name is slipping my mind. I know I played a drug dealer cutting drugs in a garage. And
Well, I know you and James have a meet cute in a cornfield, and I talk about that.
yeah, that was in Jacko Slasher, which was directed by Jen Valdez. Oh my goodness, I was also in Killer Waves. I played a surfer.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I almost forgot about Killer Waves. That was a really cool one. A lot of people really enjoyed my cameo as a surfer. I even talk like a surfer dude in that one. And I'm wearing sunglasses and a bikini, so that was a really good one. And then there's another one I think that I did. What was that one called? Oh, and then there was also another one I was in that was never released or hasn't been released yet from a few years ago. So I've been in quite a few James Balsamo films. And then now he moved out to Los Angeles, and I'm in New York City. So I guess I'll be in one of his films maybe next time I'm out in California. Or, he'll fly me out there or something like that, and we'll work it together. Or next time he visits New York. James is a really cool dude. He's always a lot of fun to work with. Catch of the Day was the other one.
Yes.
Catch of the Day. That's right. Catch
Yeah.
of the Day. So
Yeah, that had Jake the Snake Roberts and Jason Mewes in it. And
oh my goodness! And I'm in another film, not by James, with Jake the Snake, that just came out to DVD.
yeah.
Called Toxic Tutu. I'm in that with Melvin from Toxic Avenger, Lloyd Kaufman, Jake the Snake, and a whole bunch of other people that are really cool. It just got worldwide distribution. Toxic Tutu. It's a mockumentary of that kind of takes off from the idea of the Toxic Avenger. My friend that's no longer with us, Joe Nardelli, was the director. He was a graduate of NYU. He had a master's degree in film. I think he graduated, believe it or not, because he was with Spike Lee and Martin Scorsese.
So did
and then
did Jake DDT you and put the snake on you?
No, I don't have any scenes with Jake the Snake. Otherwise, that would have been pretty cool. Thank goodness they're not poisonous snakes. But I did see him at a comic book show not too long ago, and he pops up at some of the other conventions. Glad to see him, doing his thing. I love wrestlers. I'm in another film with a wrestler, Gene Snitsky, 100 Acres of Hell.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to wrestle also for the WWE. When it became the WWE from the WWF. They had to change their name because of the World Wildlife Federation, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why it's always confusion. WWF, WWE, I don't know. I'm used to it as the WWE, but I understand. I think when Jake the Snake wrestled for them, it was the WWF.
I was always a big Jake the Snake fan. As far as wrestlers go, I did a tribute to Rowdy Roddy Piper on here, and I had his son Colt and daughter Ariel on here in tribute to him, and I found out what an interesting, down-to-earth guy he was, and sad he's gone.
Oh, yeah, he is gone. And I would like to say that I was a guest at Massacre a few years ago with Vladimir Volkov before he passed away. And you know what I had said to him? I said to him, you know what? I'm like, I've seen the reruns. I'm like, when you wrestled, that was the best era for wrestling.
It was.
When you had Jake the Snake and Vladimir Volkov.
You mean Nikolai Volkov.
Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. What?
Nikolai Volkov.
Nikolai Volkov, what do I call him?
Yeah, you called him Vladimir Volkov.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, Nikolai was partners
Vladimir
with...
would be Romanian. He was Russian. Nikolai Volkov.
And he was partners with the Iron Sheik.
Exactly right. I think that was back when we weren't really getting along with the Soviet Union, right?
Yep.
And the Middle East. So much has changed. Oh, wait, actually it hasn't. Except they're not the Soviet Union, now they're Russia. But it's interesting. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Yeah, I've watched them on reruns, on YouTube and on TV and stuff. You could watch because that era was just so iconic that you could just sit down and watch that.
Yeah,
and it's still around, and people are just still reliving that era.
Yeah,
Andre the Giant was an amazing. Dude, he was iconic.
Yep.
I actually went somewhere a couple years ago, and met Honky Tonk Man.
Did he hit you with the guitar?
He didn't, thankfully. Ouch, that would have hurt. But he was lovely. My friend Jim Decker is friends with him, and I saw him doing some wrestling. He still wrestles a bit, and he's the very Elvis-looking wrestler from the 1980s, which is pretty cool. And I've also met that one guy, the Hammer.
Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Yes, I've met him at conventions as well, and I have some pictures hanging out with him. Really lovely man. And I've also, the wrestler and the horror actresses, we tend to be at a lot of the same conventions, so I meet a lot of them kind of through that.
So when are you going to wrestle?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I was associated with a wrestling group for a little while, and I did some wrestling classes, and I did do some wrestling. But then my manager was really concerned that I was going to injure myself or break something or cut myself up right before a film shoot. And he didn't really want me to continue with it. So maybe I would be interested in continuing something like that down the road, but maybe as a manager or something along those lines. Because it is tough as an actress, if I get a cut or hurt myself, that could put me out of commission for a film shoot the next day,
So you're not going to wrestle Trish Stratus?
Probably not yet. It's difficult when you have the whole acting thing go because, you have to look consistent with how you looked in the past.
Yep.
And if you get a cut on your arm or if, you break your nose or something like that, which can happen as a wrestler, I'm sure, you could that could really inhibit your ability to do your acting. Now, if I was a manager or like a bodyguard or maybe doing some kind of, or maybe an announcer, or something like that, a ringside kind of character, that would be cool. And if anybody's listening to this and they'd like me to do something like that, I would definitely be open to it because I am interested in wrestling. So I did do some wrestling classes and have some little wrestling pictures of myself, and I did kind of start with it, but it was tough, and the probability of me getting injured would probably be pretty high because they were doing mixed gender wrestling.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want to really be wrestling large men that much. I'm not that large of a woman. I'm like 5'7", but and that's tall for a woman, but it's not that tall for a man. So you put me in a ring like a guy that's like 6'2", I don't know how that's gonna go. I'm probably gonna just kick him in the balls. That's gonna be how I'm gonna win that one.
There you go.
But I don't know. They frown upon that for whatever reason. So yeah. But speaking of kicking in the balls, I was in a couple movies with Bradley Cranzo, and I kicked him in the balls accidentally in those movies. In all honesty, so that was pretty funny. I was in a movie called Night Games with him, and then I was in another film. What was it called? Fear of Sexual Harassment. And in both of those, I accidentally kneed him in the balls. Partly because one of them I was supposed to pretend to knee him in the balls, but we did so many takes and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning that in one of the takes I did actually knee him in the balls. And then there was another take where I was supposed to be hitting him in the head with a frying pan. And after we did 15 takes at 2 o'clock in the morning, the take of course we did use, was the one where I actually did connect with the frying pan with his head. Luckily I didn't do it that hard. But acting is some dangerous business, and Brad was actually a good sport about getting kicked in the balls and also about getting hit with a frying pan. Yeah, it's crazy, and that's happened with me too, where I've gotten injured on film sets. One film set I got injured on that I'll mention was working with Adam Albrandt. We were working on a film called The Sadist. And we had a scene where we kind of get into a fight and we're roughhousing, and he shoved his fingers into my mouth, and one of his fingernails must have been a little jagged, and he cut my lip a little bit.
Okay.
So I was like, ouch, you bastard. And then he smashed his hand against the wall, and I think he almost broke his hand. We had gotten so impassioned in our scene that it kind of crossed the line between like acting and reality a little bit,
Yeah.
that happens sometimes as actors, that we get so into it and we want it to be so real that it kind of crosses a little bit of a line and becomes very real for us. And I think that's not uncommon in films and stuff. You know, I've worked with a lot of the same people many, many times. Not just James Balsamo, but Adam Albrandt. I've worked with him in a few movies. He's a great dude. I was in his movie Hunters, which is out on DVD. Really hard to find, unfortunately. It's kind of a rare one. I just sold some copies of it recently at an appearance. It's probably my craziest film I've ever been in. I play Edna. I'm in it with Jason Neville, who is in, I think, Days of Our Lives and Guiding Light, and a whole bunch of other exciting things. And it's my craziest role to date in my craziest film, not for the faint of heart. Linnea Quigley's in it, Tina Krause, Ellie Church.
I met Linnea at Horrorama last year. Love her. Right now, trying to book her. Yep.
Awesome. I love Linnea. I did a wonderful Scream Queen panel with her and Camille Keaton.
I would like to get Camille on here if I can, you know.
Oh, well, I'll put in a good word for you with Camille. I'm friends with Camille. A bit more probably than Linnea, because I just happen to run into her more often. And Camille and I have the same manager, which is Matt Chasen, who is an amazing manager in the horror genre. He also manages Bill Oberst Jr.
Well,
that's my connection with Camille, you know.
Camille, I reached out to talk about I Spit on Your Grave, because I think it's interesting for such a harsh, brutal movie, but yet she's just so embracive with it, you know, and she loves the fact she's part of it. So on Facebook, you know, you send messages out, and they sometimes get filtered, and sometimes I never know who's going to see them and who doesn't. So, yeah, I'd love to have Camille Keaton on here. I couldn't believe she was... You know, I was originally reaching out to do a tribute to Buster Keaton, and I was like, I did not know that they were related. I'm like...
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Yeah, she's a great one. She's really great, though. Like I said, I met her at a couple conventions. I did a Scream Queen panel with her and Linnea. Yeah. And the reason why I guess we did the panel together is Linnea and I are both in the Sadists.
Okay.
In, Hunters. And then Camille Keaton and I both pop up in Death House.
I have a story to share with you.
Okay.
Okay, you'll find this interesting, because you and I are in some films together.
Oh, my goodness. Are we?
Yep. Ooh. Well, I love doing this podcast. Absolutely love it. And I had James Balsamo on a few months after you in 2017. And anyway, I was working night shift for my job, and I come up here. It was like 4 a.m, and I was having my lunch, and I was in the studio, and I get this message from James Balsamo asking me if I would shoot my own death scene on my phone and send it to him for Cool as Hell 2. And I'm just sitting there staring at that, like, why me? Like, I've seen the people he's had in his movies. I'm like, why me? So I knew he was up. So I called his number, and he answers, and I said, James, what is the context of my death scene? And he and I got talking, and so I watched the teaser trailer for it, and it was Linnea Quigley's little thing about badger spray that gave me an idea for my little scene. So I got my brother to just shoot my scene, less than a minute of me doing a little death scene, nothing too extravagant, and I sent it to James. So I'm officially now in Cool as Hell 2 with you and with Linnea. And then he messages me, and he asked me if I want to play a role in It Wants Blood. And he asked me to shoot, he asked me to shoot 2 scenes on my phone. And he told me what he wanted, whereabouts, what he wanted me to say. I could improvise. And he said that they would be watched on a television by Eric Roberts. And I'm like, okay, I'm sold.
That's cool. So you got to work with Eric Roberts then. How was that?
Yeah, I get to work with him without even meeting him or without even leaving Fredericton.
There you go. There you go. We worked around you. Well, that's the joy of filmmaking, is that sometimes that happens where people film you like that, and you can be in a movie across the world. I'm sure that happens even with really big films. Things like that.
Well, I don't travel a whole lot. I've gone to Toronto for Horrorama, and I got an actress that I'm really good friends with up there that I connect with when I go there, and she shows me my Toronto. I was her assistant at one of the conventions, Lisa Langlois from class of 1984.
Next time I have that, I wouldn't mind coming out to Toronto. That might be an excuse for me to go to Toronto again,
You know what? I'll have to give you the contact info for either Chris Alexander or Louis Cerise. Yeah, because you're in New York, so it's easy for them to get people in the East Time Zone. Yeah, I think that would be awesome.
I would love to come out there and do a convention. I haven't really done any Canadian ones. I do ones all over the United States, and I've done England, conventions in England.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to go out to Canada too. Why not?
Yeah.
I like Canadian people. You guys are so polite, aren't you?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, But anyway, I'm now an associate producer on 2 James Balsamo movies, and I think he's approaching me for Catch of the Day 2 as well. So since I said to him, since I'm not going to be making any money on this, I said, how about this? I asked him, I said to James, would you do a Doubtfire face challenge for me and nominate some of the people you've interviewed? And so he did one. He was happy to do one. And needless to say, you got nominated.
I got nominated for what? For what?
The Doubtfire Face Challenge by James Balsamo.
For the what fire?
Doubtfire.
What happens with that? What does that mean?
The Doubtfire Face Challenge is for suicide and depression awareness.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It started up after the Ice Bucket Challenge and after Robin Williams had unfortunately gone. And so suicide and depression get glossed over so much. So I wanted to get the industry involved. So I did one and I nominated people I interviewed. And a lot of these film projects I get involved with, I throw it out to them. So, because I know I'm not making any money off it, which is fine. It looks good on my resume. But I said to James, do a Doubtfire challenge, for suicide and depression awareness. So he did one, and you got nominated by him. And I got to put it up here eventually. I haven't put it up yet, but it involves you filming yourself taking a pie in the face, and you nominate 3 people.
Oh, my goodness. Pies in the face. I thought I was going to give a public service announcement or something like that. But interesting. I don't know if I have any pies around. Not today. I don't have any pies. I'll have to think about a pie. I might cheat it and just use a whipped cream pie.
That's fine.
A shaving cream pie. Maybe I'll do a shaving cream pie.
You can do that. Well, he nominated you. He nominated Catherine Parks, and he nominated Debbie Rochon. I forget the other person he nominated, but he threw it out to 4. But
well, I'd like to talk a little bit about suicide because it's something that really plagues, I think, showbiz.
Mm-hmm.
Like Chris Cornell's suicide had a big effect on me because I was just really getting into him because he was making kind of a comeback in the last couple of years.
Yep.
So I kind of discovered him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? His career seemed like to be doing really, really well. Such a beautiful voice. I know he did a really great song for Prince when Prince had died.
Mm-hmm.
He covered one of Prince's songs. So I was really kind of getting into him all of a sudden, And then his suicide, that fashion designer had killed herself. Robin Williams.
Yeah.
A whole host of people. It seems like it's, it seems like that's something that actually kind of plagues show business. I think what people don't realize is that going into show business as an actor or a musician or what have you, can be really difficult. I think a lot of people in show business turn to alcohol, turn to drugs, sometimes kill themselves because they don't realize how isolating and lonely it can be as a profession. And it's really not for the faint of heart. You deal with a huge amount of rejection, and when you are successful, a huge amount of jealousy from other people,
Yep.
And it can be just really, really lonely and isolating. And over time, I think it can really weaken even the strongest people and lead to a considerable amount of anxiety and depression that ultimately leads to drug use, drinking, suicide. I know Bill Oberst and a lot of other people would say that it's very important to have a religious foundation, maybe if you're in show business, something to kind of fall back on for strength because of the challenges that you face,
Yeah. Well, for me, it's Christianity for me, but I also, too, with sometimes I find a little refuge in movies, so if I find a movie that deals with an issue that I'm dealing with, that helps too.
Oh, yeah, and it could be any religion. It doesn't have to be Christianity. It could be Judaism, Hinduism, Satanism, I don't know. Whatever religion, I guess, gets you through. Whatever gets you through the night,
Yeah.
Whatever is going to help you. Buddhism is ultimately going to be, what you need to incorporate into your life. Whatever is going to give you strength, meditation, yoga, whatever it is, going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a very challenging thing because when you're not successful, you're dealing with the rejection. When you are successful, you're dealing with the jealousy. Somebody like Marilyn Monroe killing herself. You can imagine the amount of jealousy that she had in her life for her success, for her beauty, for everything else. On the surface, you would think she was the happiest person ever, but men using her, women probably not liking her.
Yep.
Just not getting paid what she was worth for her work. It just a lot of things like that kind of plague the show business field. It is a very difficult thing. And then also, people not saying no to you when it comes to different bad habits that maybe you might have. People don't like to say no to celebrities if they want drugs, if they want drinks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it is a very, like Michael Jackson with his drug use, and his doctor was his enabler. That happens in this field. People don't want to say no to celebrities,
Mm-hmm.
So it's a difficult field, and we all should stick together and things like that. But it is, it's not for the faint of heart. I would say they say the average actor gives up acting the first 2 years.
Okay.
Because it's a very difficult road, and it's not something that everyone wants to pursue. It's very difficult. But moving on to other things, let's talk about the film I'm writing and directing.
Yes, we got to talk about Attack of the Killer Chickens. I mean, gee, the Attack of anything is always great. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I understand there's one out called Attack of the Adult Babies. So now we got Attack of the Killer Chickens. First off, I interviewed John Dugan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre back in March, and I looked at this in his credits, and I knew that you had posted stuff about it. What I didn't know was that you had directed it. Talk about being an actor and a director both, and doing both at the same time.
Wow, it's a lot of work. So I have to give people like James and other people that do this some credit. So here I am. I'm writing the movie, directing the movie, and I'm one of the stars of the movie. It's a lot of work because it's like you have to deal with everybody else remembering their dialogue and making sure that they're on par, setting up the locations, dealing with the cinematographer, writing and rewriting the scenes, memorizing your own dialogue, getting all the props together, and really just thinking about the whole process. It's a lot on your plate. It's kind of overwhelming. It's very difficult. It's something that I just kind of got thrown into, too. Attack of the Killer Chickens started out as a short film a couple years ago.
Yep.
It won, I think, about 6 awards, including Best Spoof, Best Short Film, and Best Comedy, and a couple other awards. And I got a producer behind me, and we formed Cluck Cluck Productions, LLC, and we decided to turn it into a feature. It did so well at film festivals that it went to over 40 film festivals, and we decided to make it into a feature. You know, that's a good way to test a short film or a concept, is to make it and have it go to film festivals and see how people respond. And they got a great response, so we decided to make it a feature. And John Dugan, is in it. You probably also saw David Norton is in it. Lloyd Kaufman is in it. And we'll be adding more people to the cast. It's an ensemble cast. We got some people from James Balsamo films in it. I'm in it.
Where's James Balsamo? Is he one of the chickens?
I'd like to get him in. We'll have to just see. It's all going to have to depend on him because he's out in L.A. And that might be a little challenging to get him into the film, so we'll have to see about that. I'm working with Dave Stein. Excuse me. I want to call him Dave Steen because of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But no. Dave Stein, who's done a bunch of James Balsamo films. In fact, he's the Lich.
Yep.
Pops up as a great character and as a chicken in the film. And Edward X. Young pops up, and K.J. Hopkins pops up, Rocco George, Suhana Adrianson, who's been in a number of horror films, pops up. A whole bunch of people. Hopefully we'll get James aboard. We'll see what happens. Like I said, he's out in L.A. and he's a busy dude, so it's all going to probably depend on logistics, really.
Yeah.
Because, of course, we'd love to have him aboard, and everybody loves James. So we'll have to just see how everything works out with scheduling and distance and stuff. It's all logistics. And on all that, so we're working on Attack of the Killer Chickens. John Dugan did a fantastic job. David Norton did a great job from American Horror for London.
Yes.
Lloyd Kaufman was great getting him in the film. Attack of the Killer Chickens, the short film, actually opened up Trauma Dance last summer, and Lloyd really liked the film. It's pretty cool. A lot of people compare it to Poultrygeist, but I'm going to say honestly, I cannot say that I was inspired by Poultrygeist because I have not seen Poultrygeist.
I've seen clips from it. That's about as far as I got.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, and I'm not going to see it until I'm done shooting Attack of the Killer Chickens because I don't want it to subconsciously influence me. What actually influenced me with Attack of the Killer Chickens is the fact there are actually more chickens now in the world than there are humans, which is a great dumb fact. And I decided to base a film on that fact.
Is it true that the Swedish chef from the Muppets is protesting it?
He's protesting my film?
Yeah, is he?
I don't know. That would be cute if he was, but I don't know. He doesn't speak English, does he? I wouldn't even know if he was protesting. He speaks Swedish, and I don't speak Swedish. So if he is, I haven't noticed. So we are kind of paying homage a little bit, spoofing the Muppets. I would say a little bit with Attack of the Killer Chickens, because the puppets, are a little bit similar to the Muppets. Because Rocco George, our puppet maker and actor, and I are big Jim Henson Muppet Show fans.
Okay.
We love the Muppets. We love Jim Henson. I walked by Jim Henson Productions when I was in L.A. Last summer, visiting and doing some work there. And it was I love everything Jim Henson ever did. He was really a genius, and it's too bad that we lost him at such a young age. Who knows what he would have gone on to do? Love the Muppet Show, Sesame Street, The Dark Crystal, Labyrinth.
Happy Time Murders.
Exciting things. Happy Time Murders.
Yeah.
I never saw that. What is that?
Oh, that was the last one that came out. It was the R-rated Muppet movie by Brian Hansen with Melissa McCarthy.
I saw a horror movie that Jim Henson Productions worked on after Jim Henson died called Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Okay, I don't know that one.
Yeah, it's I believe a European film. I think French.
Okay.
And I think the werewolf kind of creature was made by Jim Henson Productions. So that's kind of like an obscure movie that I found, because I'm all about obscure movies. In fact, I'm in a bunch of obscure movies, actually. They're pretty obscure. But and I want to talk about some other movies that I've been in. But yeah, that's Attack of the Killer Chicken. So we're working on finishing it up. Probably be out next year from Cluck Cluck Productions. Look for me, Edward X. Young, Rocco George, K.J. Hopkins, Suhana Agenson, David Stein, a whole bunch of people in it, and it's just going to be, a fantastic film. Lloyd Kaufman is in it. It's not a trauma movie, though. It's not a trauma movie. Everybody thinks it is, but it's not a trauma movie.
Talk about
And then,
meeting Lloyd Kaufman, because I believe he was in some Balsamo movies too, wasn't he not?
He was in, like, I Spill Your Guts, and he was in a whole bunch. I think I'm actually in at least 10 movies with Lloyd Kaufman. And everybody thought I had done trauma movies because of how many movies I'm in with Lloyd. I remember I did some interview, and they said to me, "Tell me about your trauma movies." And I said, "I've never been in a trauma movie." And they're like, "Why don't you want to talk about your trauma movies?" And I said, "There are no trauma movies to talk about." And they were like, "All right, I guess you just don't want to talk about that." And I'm like, "Why do you think I'm lying? I have not been in any trauma movies. I am just simply in movies with Lloyd where we're both actors,
Mm-hmm.
including Apocalypse Kiss, which is a really cool movie. I'm pregnant in it. He's the President of the United States. That was a really cool movie. And we're in a bunch of other movies together. Now I can say I have a very small part, a cameo, in one of Lloyd's movies, and that we shot in August of last year, called Shakespeare's Shitstorm. I can finally say, based on The Tempest, I finally got to do Shakespeare. Mom and Dad would be proud. So I finally got to do Shakespeare, but it's crazy, screwed up Shakespeare. So they still wouldn't be proud, really. But so I was on set for that in August. I have a brief cameo. I came out to NJ HorrorCon because Lloyd said, "Come out to NJ Horror, hang out at the Trauma table, and see Shakespeare's Shitstorm." We're doing a focus group. So I saw the movie. It looked really cool. It was definitely very different than most of the movies out there in the world. It was pretty crazy. It was fun. It was a fun movie. Lloyd Kaufman sings in it. I hope that's not too much of a spoiler. I don't want to give away too much of the movie, but if you want to hear Lloyd sing in a movie, it's definitely cool. And I pop up a little bit in it, and a whole bunch of other people pop up in it. It's a pretty cool movie. We had a fun time shooting it. I met a lot of really interesting people. A bunch of actors from Shakespeare's Shitstorm that I met in the holding room actually did end up in Attack of the Killer Chickens, too. One of the reasons why Lloyd figured I'd want to be on set would be to find actors for my own film. He introduced me to a whole bunch of people and recommended some people that he thought were really cool. One of them was a person named Bailey Ellis, who Lloyd specifically recommended him to be in the film. And Bailey pops up as Valentino Gold in my film Attack of the Killer Chickens, and also pops up in Shakespeare's Shitstorm. So I'll give a shout out to Bailey, because Bailey was the only one that Lloyd really made a point to recommend by name. So that was kind of interesting, and I had a lot of fun giving people cool names for my movie. I like to give people cool names. I spent some time on that. If you're going to be in a movie, I should give you a really cool name like Valentino Gold. Not everybody has a name that cool. Probably more people should name their children cool names like that. We'd have a cooler world.
Yep.
That we live in. Everybody should have a name that sounds like they were alive during the disco era.
I was alive during the disco era.
And we were like hanging out at Studio 54 with Andy Warhol. That's the kind of name you should have, And if you don't have that kind of name, you got to kind of really rethink your life. I think at least Genoveva Rossi, I have the kind of name that would have suited me well to be in a Fellini movie. So,
there you go.
Cool. Yeah. You could have seen me in a Fellini movie, and La Strada or Dolce Vita with a name like that. So at least I have that going on. You got to live your life large and free and happy. So pretty excited about working on Attack of the Killer Chickens. Thankful for everybody that's done cameos with for the film, that gave their time and made themselves available and things like that. As actors, people don't always choose to do every film that's on their plate. People can be selective. So it was great that everybody was on board and willing to be in my film and all that stuff. And I'm thankful for our production company for funding the film, paying everybody and getting everything going, to do this professional film. It's my first time directing and writing and acting in a feature.
Mm-hmm.
I did that one short film, Attack of the Killer Chickens, before that, and now we're doing Attack of the Killer Chickens, the movie. Those are the only things I've ever directed. But already I'm an award-winning director. That's kind of cool.
Well, you know what? I'm available, but only here, so I could do scenes on my phone. You know what the running joke is with James Balsamo? I said, because the scene in Cool as Hell 2 and the two scenes I did for It Wants Blood, it's just me sitting at my brother's computer desk drinking coffee, spouting shit. I said, and James seems to like it, so I'm like, okay, it's not art, but if you like it, great, thanks, I said to him, I should do a running joke in your movie, just me sitting at the computer drinking coffee, spouting stuff about the plot.
That would be really funny. That's like very Andy Warhol. Because I just went to the Andy Warhol exhibit at Whitney, where he has a movie of him eating a hamburger. We'll just have you drinking coffee and put that in the movie, just for no apparent reason,
Is there any way I can get involved with Attack of the Killer Chickens?
Does your phone shoot HD?
I don't know.
Yeah, or 4K, because the whole film is 4K. We're shooting 4K. We're not taking any footage that's not 4K.
Okay, 4K. Well, I can find out.
Yeah, that's what you'd have to find out, and that's what would probably be the biggest deciding factor. And also my producer, Dave, is making some of those decisions as well. But we're shooting the whole entire movie 4K Black Magic. We want this to be a top-of-the-line professional film. Cluck Cluck Productions is we make crazy movies, but we make crazy movies that are high quality.
Oh, gee.
When that evil chicken puppet's killing you, we want it to be in 4K. So you really you can feel it at home.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much quality it would be me on my phone, but
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. He's very strict about that because we want to make sure we get a good distributor and we have a high quality film. Mm-hmm. So people have asked to shoot the film and be in the film and things like that, but that's a priority to my producer and our production company, is that it has to be 4K from beginning to end.
Okay.
That's the standard that we're conforming to in the film. And we've hired a wonderful cinematographer named Brendan Scary.
Okay.
He is a great dude. He has his bachelor's degree in film. He's going for his master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
He has a wonderful amount of equipment. Lloyd Kaufman met him and found him to be a young, handsome, strapping cinematographer. And that's what I look for in a cinematographer. I like to hire young, handsome ones. So that's why Brandon is a part of our crew. He was also recommended to be by Rocco George, and he worked on a film with me with Rocco called Bernard T. Ward's Popcorn Bag of Terror a couple years ago, where I play a gypsy fortune teller in that, and Rocco plays numerous roles, one of them being a puppet. And I met Rocco on the set of that film, and also Brandon, and we all ended up working together on Attack of the Killer Chickens. You just never know who you're going to end up working with and stuff. Edward X. Young is one of the stars of Attack of the Killer Chicken. Edward and I have been in over 22 films together, and I knew I wanted to have Ed as he's part of the short film,
mm-hmm.
and he is part of the feature. So that's really exciting. I always love working with him. He's a great dude. And it's like family. We're like a big horror family. Like James is like my cousin. Edward X. Young is like my crazy uncle. We're all like We're like this crazy horror family. John Dugan, David Naughton, Lloyd. Lloyd's my crazy uncle. It's like we're all part of this family. Globally, everybody kind of knows everybody else, and we've all kind of worked together. And it's really an honor to work with all these people that I grew up being a fan of, Lloyd Kaufman, Linnea Quigley, Camille Keaton, Michael Berryman. It's like wonderful to John Dugan, to finally David Naughton, to grow up watching them in movies and then to actually become friends with them, do conventions with them, signing autographs, and then to do films with them. To actually have them become your peers is really super duper, exciting, and to become your friends too.
Yes, I found that out with Lisa, and I found that out with Nancy McLaughlin from Jason Lives as well. I have a few that I'm connected with on a good friendship level. It's interesting. David Naughton was supposed to be at Horrorama last year, and ended up he ended up having to postpone it because of a film project. So he wasn't able.
He's a busy guy. We were lucky to get him in Attack of the Killer Chickens. There was another film. They tried really hard to get David Naughton in it, and we would have worked together. But his film schedule was already booked, and the weekend they needed him, he was booked, I think, in Utah for another film. God bless David Naughton, but he's a busy guy. He was actually in an episode of American Horror Story a couple of years ago with Lady Gaga and Angela Bassett. So I want to kind of give a shout out to that because that's a great episode. He's been in My Sister Sam in the 80s. He had a disco song making it. He was in, I think, a TV show called Granite Flats on Netflix. He is a very consistently working guy. I think he's in one of the Sharknado movies, Sharknado 4, if I'm not mistaken, which is pretty cool.
I would love to get him on here. I haven't had anybody from American Werewolf in London on here. But
well, that's a great movie. And then some trivia on that. I think he was going to do Full Frontal for that, but I think his character is supposed to be Jewish, and David Naughton is not circumcised. So that's a little bit of some trivia about David Naughton and his penis. So that. And also about American Werewolf in London. So I'll just throw that out there. Well, he's a very handsome guy, so I could see why they would want to have done that. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
I think there should be more full frontal male nudity in movies, because I need a thrill. Yeah, I do. I need more thrills in my life, I seek out movies that have full frontal male nudity. I Spill Your Guts, in fact, has full frontal male nudity. I recommended that to my friend Janice, who's a feminist. I said, you're going to enjoy I Spill Your Guts because you know what? It has female nudity, but it also has penises. So
I was excited last year watching The Favorite and got to see Emma Stone expose her tits. So
there you go. But did it have penises in it too?
I don't remember. I was just surprised that Emma Stone did a topless scene.
Well, I guess if you throw enough money at people, the sky's the limit.
Never thought I'd ever see that.
Yeah, you just never know if people throw enough money at someone, or if it's a good part, or I think somebody thinks it's very important for the role. I'm very selective in the nudity that I will do. I don't say necessarily no, I'm not going to do nudity, but I think it depends a lot on the budget, how much you're paying me. It depends a lot on the role, whether or not I think it's important for the character. If I think it's something that's tasteful or something that I feel is necessary.
Well, I asked James Balsamo if he's going to do another cornfield scene with you, and he said he'd like to do that.
Oh, yeah, we got to be out in the cornfield together. That's how we met, cornfield. That's how we met. That was my first introduction to James. I remember, my head was down in his crotch area. So it was a pretty intimate meeting. Nothing sexual happened between us, of course, but it was just it was acting, and that was what was kind of required of the scene. It was a Jen Valdez film, and we had agreed to do that film in the summer, and then we ended up shooting it in October when it was 20 degrees in a cornfield at 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was my introduction into the glamorous world of acting, where you're in your underwear covered in fake blood in a cornfield and it's 20 degrees and you're freezing your ass off and your face is in some guy's crotch that you never met before. And that is acting. That's what it's all about. And if that doesn't appeal to you, don't become an actor, because that's, acting is all about being uncomfortable. You're always wearing like no clothes or close to no clothes, and it's friggin' freezing, or you're wearing a ton of clothes and it's 100 degrees. It's never like you're dressed appropriately. No one ever shoots a summer scene in the summer. No one ever shoots a winter scene in the winter. That never happens. Be prepared to be very uncomfortable and to not, and to have, and the challenges of acting. My fourth film, it was uncomfortable. That was Apocalypse Kiss. I have a birth scene, and I'm in this old factory. I'm wearing like close to no clothes, covered in fake sweat and blood and Vaseline, pretending to give birth to a baby, right? And like we couldn't have the heat run because it made too much noise.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I'm giving birth and I look like I'm in hell, I kind of am like in hell, because because that scene was very difficult and very uncomfortable to shoot on many levels. But that added to the realism of the scene. But then I remember when I got home, I was just covered in all this crap, and I took a hot shower, and it was just like, oh my God. It took me a while to recover from shooting that, because we shoot and we do multiple takes, and sometimes it takes hours to shoot a scene that only takes a couple minutes to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Because it has to be perfect. You don't realize setting up the scene and doing the scene and how tedious that is. Like when I was in Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Mania, I have a kind of a small scene, like a cameo in that. I went out to Canada for it. And he was going to give me a lead in his next film. And he was like, Genoveva, I don't know if you want to come out for a small part in Blood Mania, but you can be our lead in the next movie. And I said to myself, the dude's 85. I'm going to come out and I'll do the small part, because we don't know how long, if the next movie is going to get made, because nobody lives forever. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So I went out and did the Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Mania, and I have like pretty much one scene in that. And it's a cool scene, has a lot of blood in it. We had to do it like in like one take, because the setting up and the special effects took so many hours to get ready that you just couldn't really duplicate it. And that's one of the stressful things about being in the horror genre that a lot of actors don't appreciate, is that it could take many hours to set up a scene, and you have one take, and that take is going to end up in the final film. And there's a lot of pressure on you to make sure that take is perfect,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people in other genres have that level, because they can always do another take. In horror, especially in the low-budget genre that we're in here, you may only have that one take,
Mm-hmm.
So I think, if anything, horror actors are sometimes better than non-horror actors because of that,
Yep.
And we don't get the appreciation that we deserve.
No.
Like, yeah, you can watch that scene and maybe you don't think it's great, but you know what? I did it in one take.
Mm-hmm.
Could you have done that? How many takes would it have taken you? 15, 20? Well, you know what? You didn't have 15, 20 takes, because the budget for Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Mania was, I think, under $1 million, but that's still low budget compared to Hollywood,
Mm-hmm.
We're still running a tight budget, I don't know when we get out of the B-rated genre, but even at $1 million, we're still a B-rated movie.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even at $2 million, you're still a B-rated movie, really. That's still a pretty low-budget movie compared to these Hollywood movies that have, like, $20, $30, $40 million budgets,
Yeah.
So.
You've got over a dozen projects on IMDb that are either completed or pre-production or filming.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I try really hard to keep myself as busy as humanly possible.
Yeah, well, even James Balsamo has a lot of projects and pre-production and this and that, and I'm honored he asked me to cameo in them. I'm like, it's like, why me? And he said he liked doing my show, and I'm like, okay, because I'm no actor, But I was happy to do it. I said, if I can keep it short, like under a minute, I said I might not screw that up. So anyway, he likes
Well,
it. So
sometimes short is better. Sometimes
yep,
less is more. You
yep.
know, sometimes less is more. It's not about how much time you're on screen. It's about the impact
Mm-hmm.
that you leave everybody with. You know.
Yep.
Sometimes it's like that. But yeah, I want to also give a shout out to a Bigfoot movie that I did recently. And who's in that with me? Let me give a shout out. I have my friend Matt Burns stars as one of the Bigfoot creatures. I'm
Okay.
Genoveva Rossi, and I'm in it as a gypsy fortune teller that counsels Bigfoot. Jenny Janetti's in it. I'm in a couple films with her, including Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Okay.
Also, Mel Heslin's in it. We're in Hunters together in a couple other films. And it was my first film with Jim Crud, Helicopter Zombie from Dawn of the Dead. It's directed by Mark Byrne, and it is now on Amazon Prime. And it's really cool. It's a Bigfoot movie. And Bigfoot, wow, a lot of people, it's a very popular film. We just did the screening out in Maryland. I did a convention appearance for it. Didn't realize how popular Bigfoot was, you know? People love Bigfoot.
Do you
People
have
love
big
it.
feet?
No, I really don't. But, and I'm not as hairy as Bigfoot, but thanks for asking. Thanks for asking anyway. But, and a great quote from Sasquatch, believe in yourself, even when no one else does.
Mm-hmm.
Sasquatch, because not everybody believes in Bigfoot. But yeah, that was a really great film. Matt Burns and I also worked on another movie, and I think you posted a picture from it, where I'm in my underwear, animal print underwear, holding a chainsaw covered in blood.
Oh, I
Which,
love that picture.
which is my typical Saturday night. But when we took that picture, we were actually filming a movie with Matt Burns called Dead Men Tell No Tales. Rita Christine was also in that film. It came out a few years ago, and that picture was shot on my cell phone and ended up being the poster and the cover of the film. And I'm in that with Matt Burns, and that was my first time using a chainsaw. I didn't really know how to use a chainsaw up until that day because I'm from the New York, New Jersey area, and we don't really use chainsaws that often. I live in the city. It doesn't really come up. Except for when I kill people. Not that I kill people. Well, maybe I do. Maybe I don't. But yeah. So that was pretty exciting to have my chainsaw, and I get to kill my friend Matt Burns in that. I've known Matt for a few years, and we've been in a few movies, so that was pretty exciting. And then Matt and I were reunited for Bigfoot, and we had some scenes there as well. So pretty cool. And that was a film. And then another film I did pretty recently was Adam Albrandt's movie Betrayer,
Okay.
which is pretty cool. It was my first time. I've been in over 100 films, but it was my first time playing a hooker.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's usually like the first role you play as an actress, but for me, it's my 100th role playing a hooker. So I can't feel like my acting career has really been marked by too much sexism, because instead of my first couple roles being a hooker and being typecast as a hooker, I had to do 100 movies before I got to play a hooker. That's cool. It's a little different. A little different. And I played a wide variety of roles. So I was pretty excited to play the hooker in that. And then I got reunited with my scene partner from Hunters, Jason Vale from Atlanta, Georgia. He's also in Toxic Tutu with me, Hunters, and now Betrayer. He's a handsome man. Yes, he's a handsome man. And I always, and my friends will tell you, I always notice a handsome man.
Mm-hmm.
I always do. If there's any handsome man anywhere near me, or even a handsome boy, I'm gonna notice him. I'm not prejudiced. If you're anywhere between 21 and maybe 55, maybe I'll go older. Who knows? Depends on how cute you are. I'll notice you. And so Jason Vale is in a bunch of movies with me, including Betrayer, and that was pretty cool. He does an excellent job in that. And that was a cool film that I filmed not too long ago. I'm always filming films. I'm always keeping myself really busy. Been super busy with Attack of the Killer Chickens. I also just did something recently. What is it called? I just played a sock puppet in a project that was really cool. It was something that my friend Rocco George introduced me to, and it's my second time playing a sock puppet. And that was challenging because, I had made sock puppets as a child, but I had never acted as one. It's called Fashion Trashin', and I'm in their Halloween episode and their episode that just premiered on Easter Sunday, and I play a sock puppet in both of those. So that's kind of like something a little different to do kind of voiceover as a sock puppet. So that's another project that I just did. And then I just found out about another film, Must Be Jelly, that just got, they put together a trailer for it. And it's a film dealing with racism. I had shot some scenes for that a while ago. It was something that I found kind of organically where I actually submitted for the role, and they chose me, not really realizing that I was a well-known horror actress. I think they just chose me based on my acting reel and my resume and my headshot, right?
Okay.
I submitted for it, and they picked me, and I played a white person who was very uptight during the time of segregation. I'm a racist person during a time of segregation where being racist was acceptable and normal. And so that was kind of a challenging role. It's a call-to-action film. It's an inspirational film, hopefully to inspire young people and people in general. So, and then I did it a while ago, and I wonder whatever happened to it. And my friend Tony tagged me in the post with the trailer to let me know that it's actually out there. And then I don't think the people on the film had ever noticed how many IMDb credits I had or exactly who I was when they cast me, Well, which is cool. It's nice to know that I can get cast in a film that's a not horror film, and they'd have no idea that I'm actually kind of famous, and they do put me in the movie just based on my my acting skill. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
Nice,
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's nice to know that I can do non-horror films. Like, I do like to do films that are also drama, that are also other genres. I've also done some improv comedy with my friend Peter Austin Noto on his show that's on Manhattan Public Access. MNN is the network. And he's an improv comedy guy that's been on Saturday Night Live, Sex and the City, Sopranos, Stranger with Candy, a whole bunch of TV shows. And I've worked with him, I think, on maybe 16 to 20 episodes of his show. I've come out and done some improv comedy with him, and he thinks I do a pretty good job with that. So I do delve into other genres, but I am the most known with horror. And I have also done a number of plays, the Nyack Village Theater in Nyack, New York. And I just did their St. Patrick's Day play, even though I'm not actually Irish, but don't tell anyone. Secret. And I also did their Halloween play the last 3 years, their Edgar Allan Poe play. And I did a biblical play there a while ago called Harlots and Heresy. Guess which one I was? I guess I was a harlot. And I played Delilah of Samson and Delilah. Well, I always like dating guys with long hair, so that was kind of a good fit, I guess. I have a preference for long hair.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the rock and roll looking guy. So I'm in that biblical play. And I was also in another play that they did for Christmas based on George Burns' radio plays, if anybody remembers George Burns. I think he lived to be like 100.
He lived to be 100, yep.
Didn't he? God bless his soul. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What an amazing lifespan that he had. Him and Bob Hope lives almost forever.
Yep.
God bless them.
Yep.
Amazing. Here's some trivia about Hollywood. George Burns, Bob Hope, and Mae West had, I think, the longest careers in Hollywood because they started when they were children. Mae West, who I'm a big fan of, only lived to be 87, which is not as long as Bob Hope and George Burns. But she started acting when she was 7, so she had an 80-year career.
Oh, wow.
Is that amazing?
Yep.
She went from theater to film, back to film, and she's my inspiration because you know what? When she died, her boyfriend was 30 years younger than her, and they had been together for 20 years. I hope to live that long, and then to have a boyfriend who's a bodybuilder that's 30 years younger than me, banging me every day. That's what I need. You know, like, God, if that isn't heaven on earth, I don't know what is. Because I love guys with long hair. I love muscular guys. I like guys that bang me every day. And I don't mind if they're a couple years younger. 30 years younger, I would go to jail. But maybe they would visit me and bring me cupcakes. I don't know. But yeah, so, when I'm older, when I'm 87, I guess 30 years younger will be okay, though. But for now, it wouldn't be. I go to jail for sure. But yeah, so she's an inspiration. I love Mae West. Mae West is one of my favorite actresses because she was somebody that was a real sex pot in her time period and managed to remain a sex symbol up until the day she died at 87.
Oh, wow.
In reality and also in film and theater, because she did have a boyfriend that was 30 years younger than her that was like a professional bodybuilder living with her and taking care of her. So she was a sex symbol, in reality, and also a sex symbol, on TV and in film. So that's something to aspire to. Also, she had a lot of money. I aspire to that as well. And she was fabulous. So that's pretty cool. And then George Burns and Bob Hope, I always liked them a lot too. That's one of the reasons why I did the George Burns radio play. I played a character called Mrs. Gardner in that. Because I always liked George Burns in those old movies. He had a great quote that I love. Actually, two great quotes from George Burns. One was, acting is all about honesty. And if you can fake that, you got it made. That shows you how witty George Burns was. And then he has another great quote that I also think about is, better to be a failure at something you love than be a success at something you hate.
I remember that quote. Love that.
That's a great quote, and that's something to maybe live by in life, because it's all about you. Because we go into the world as actors, and George Burns, I'm sure, understood this, is that there's no guarantee that you're going to be successful. Don't become an actor unless you know you're going to enjoy the journey, not just the destination.
Mm-hmm.
Because you may succeed and you may fail, but at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, have you been happy with how you've led your life?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And George Burns was a wise man, especially, living to 100. Imagine all the wisdom that he had.
And smoking those cigars right up there.
Well, I had read somewhere that, he actually did not live to be 100 smoking cigars. He didn't actually ever inhale the smoke, and he didn't really smoke cigars. He used to use the cigars as a timing device during his comedy. So he would kind of look down at the cigar. He would light it at the beginning,
mm-hmm.
and he would look down, and he could see by how much had burned of the cigar how long he had been on stage.
Oh.
And that's why. And he also liked it as a prop, something to hold in his hand.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and in reality, he didn't smoke cigars because probably smoking cigars, cigarettes, doing drugs, or being an alcoholic, he would probably not live to be 100 years old.
I would say not, no.
No, the probability of that is very low. Sometimes people live to their 70s or something like that, or pretty old with bad habits, but I don't think he would live to be in the 3-digit numbers, with having a really bad habit like that. I think he was a pretty clean living kind of guy, living to be 100, and I think Bob Hope was too. And I know Mae West lived to be 87, which isn't quite as old, but, I think she died in the 80s. So, that was a pretty good lifespan in that time period. And, and Mae West, for instance, did not drink. She did not smoke. She didn't even ingest caffeine.
Okay.
Against caffeine. She said her one bad habit was sex. But you know what? It's good exercise, at least, right? And when she was a senior citizen, a nice story about Mae West, they came to her house. They were going to put it on TV, but they found her house was too risque. She had paintings of herself naked on the wall. She had a big, giant sculpture of herself naked. And then they came into her bedroom. They saw mirrors above the ceiling. And Mae West was a senior citizen at the time,
mm-hmm.
okay? And they said to her, why do you have mirrors above your bed? And she said, I like to see how I'm doing. And that was considered too risque of a thing to air on television that someone likes to see how they're doing, I guess, sexually with mirrors, even as a senior citizen. But, you can keep on having sex, I guess, for as long as you want to. No reason to stop even when you're a senior citizen. It's good exercise. You burn calories. It's good for your heart. So pretty funny, right?
Yeah.
That was her one bad habit, but that's not that bad of a bad habit. It's better to, be having a lot of sex with people that you like having sex with than smoking, drinking, doing drugs, and things like that,
Yeah.
Pick your bad habit wisely.
Any of these projects coming up that you want to plug, because I know you got a whole list of them. Which ones stand out that were a great experience?
Well, that's a good question. Attack of the Killer Chickens, the movie, has been a great experience. Some writer, director, acting, getting to work with all of my friends on a film, my family of friends.
You get to play Suckarena.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yes, I play. Actually, that's a good point. I actually play multiple roles.
Yeah, I see that.
Killer Chickens, the movie. I play Lisa, who's a lesbian. Yeah, because I wanted to play a lesbian because I hadn't played a lesbian yet, and I was really anxious to play a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I've slept with a couple women in my life, so it wasn't that much of a stretch from my normal life.
Okay.
Just throw that out there. I like younger men. I like older men, and once in a while, I might like a woman. Every third Tuesday, we'll say, like that. So I play Lisa the lesbian.
Okay.
Oh, wow, that sounds good, Lisa the lesbian. I didn't realize how good that sounded. And then I also play Suckarena.
Yeah.
And she's a horror hostess. And she has red hair. She looks a little bit like Peg Bundy from Married with Children, if anybody actually remembers that show.
I do. I loved it.
Yeah, I love that. She was a real cutie pie in that show. I like that show. I like to watch the reruns of it and the little skits of it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It was a hilarious show.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also, I get to be a redhead. I get to be a blonde. And then I also pop up as a gypsy fortune teller with black hair in the film because I love playing a gypsy fortune teller character, and I had to throw that in too. So then I have 3 different hair colors. I'm a blonde, I'm a redhead, and I have black hair in the film. Because I have an extensive wig collection, and I like to wear wigs, and I like to play different roles and have fun with different accents and stuff like that, in different voices. So I had a really good time doing that. And Rocco George also plays a couple different characters as well, because he's also a master of disguise. So we had a lot of fun doing that sort of thing in the film. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. So you get to see me playing a couple different characters, so that was extra challenging. And it's my movie, and I can do whatever I want. That's the thing about being the director. There were some times, like we were working in Coney Island on a film, and we had this guy, Justin, and he was attractive. And we were like, you know what? We should have Justin strip down to his underwear for a scene. It's hard being the director. You have to make these decisions where you have to have attractive guys in their underwear at the beach for different scenes because it's vital, for the art, the flow, and Justin did that, and that worked out well. And things like that. It's tough, it's tough making, and I have to put attractive men into my movie and have them not wear a lot of clothing. It's hard. It's hard. Tough life. It's a tough life being a director and making these important, film decisions, art decisions and stuff. I've gotten really into watching some Andy Warhol films recently too, and there was a great quote from one of the actors. He said, somebody asked him what was the point of these Andy Warhol films, and he said, there was no point. That was the point. And I'm like, and that's kind of the point of all these B-rated movies that we make, is that why do we make them? There is no point. We just make them because we felt like it. Yeah, John D'Alessandro said that. I've been watching a lot of his movies recently. I just watched Blood of Dracula last night. I watched Heat. I watched Trash. I watched Flesh. kind of for some like inspiration, and things like that. Because I like Andy Warhol, and I like Andy Warhol's films that he produced and stuff, and that it kind of reminds me a lot of the kinds of movies that we make. It's art for the sake of art.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy art. For the sake of art. There's not necessarily a point in it other than to entertain. There's not necessarily a message. Except to entertain people and bring, art to the world and stuff. So, yeah, so for me, Attack of the Killer Chickens is one I'm excited about. Look for Betrayer. Look for Bigfoot. Look for the upcoming James Balsamo films that I'm in.
Yeah, we're in a couple together.
Exactly right. So look for those. People love them.
Yep.
They're crazy. People like to watch them over and over again and just like laugh.
Yep.
And roll around the floor laughing because they're just hilarious movies. They just get funnier the more you watch them.
Mm-hmm.
And, and stuff like that. And, look for me in a whole bunch of other films that will be upcoming. Keeping myself really, look for me in Fashion Trashin'. You can watch that for free on YouTube. I'm in 2 episodes. Watch me as a sock puppet. See me as you've never seen me before as a sock puppet. I'm a pretty cute sock puppet, I think. That was a good role because I didn't have to worry about, taking a shower and getting all the blood off of me afterwards or anything like that.
You know, when you do your next cornfield scene with James, you should have a sock puppet.
Maybe he could put a sock over his dick and it could be like a sock puppet. Yeah. Like John D'Alessandro, I think, did that in a movie, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers did that in the 90s, and now James Balsamo can do that in a movie where he has a sock puppet, not a sock, but a sock puppet. Take it a step farther and do that in his film, Yeah.
I bring this up to him a lot online, the cornfield. I said, you and Genoveva met in the cornfield.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of our friendship. Yeah, and then and it's been a wacky ride. And then I Spill Your Guts with him, and we'll talk a little bit about that. That was my first on-screen sex scene. Oh my God! All right, so let me give you some nasty information about that.
Okay.
I'll get a little nasty.
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
All right, so I'll get a little nasty. I'll get a little dirty. So I show up. And he's like, yeah, you're going to do a sex scene with this guy or whatever. I was like, all right. So I get there, and it's this guy, Billy Walsh. Very nice-looking guy, well put together, tattoos and stuff. Kind of, hung, we'll say. And I don't think he'll mind me saying that. It's not like it's an insult. And we're doing this sex scene. Of course, I had like a boyfriend at the time, but nobody knew about it because I like to be a little bit quiet about my relationships. And I'm like, oh God, here I am rolling around this attractive, young, fit, hung, tattooed guy. And I'm like, my boyfriend is going to be like so mad or whatever. But, and it was a very arousing scene for Billy and I to shoot, I would say, because we were pretty much really naked. And we were both very aroused during the shoot, and it was a pretty crazy experience. And even though it's only in the film for like a minute or two, for some reason it took many hours and many takes to shoot that. I think maybe everyone was just having a little bit too much fun being in the scene and also shooting that scene. I don't know. It took an awful long time to shoot it, though. For how much of the film it's actually in. But we had a good time. And that's how I met Billy. And then Billy and I were in a bunch of other films. He pops up in a lot of James Balsamo films after that, and so do I. So I kept on running into Billy quite a few times at different conventions and also on film sets. And in fact, for Cool as Hell, he plays a demon. And I helped paint his head and his fingernails.
Oh, he was as the demon, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's the demon, yeah. So then I remember I actually helped paint him up and paint his fingernails on the set before we shot the scenes. Because that's how I am. I pitch in. I'm a team player. Want me to paint somebody's fingernails? If they're cute, I will.
Well, I guess I have no shot.
I don't know. You'll have to send me some pictures of you being cute.
Oh, gee.
Then I'll judge whether or not I would paint your fingernails, and then we'll make that decision. But yeah. So that was kind of cute, and yeah, he was in Cool as Hell, and then he's in a whole bunch of James's films. I think most of them too. James works with a lot of the same actors. Edward X. Young is in a bunch. Bob Sachi, Robert Aronson, Robert Youngren. We called them the Three Bobs, and they have ended up in a lot of James's movies. The Three Bobs.
Yep.
We call that. We always say that, and then when we're watching the movie, we're like, "How far along are we in the movie?" And they're like, "Well, we're one Bob in." And we'll be like, "We're two Bobs in," or "We're three Bobs in." Pretty far along in the movie if you've already had the three Bobs, you know.
Yeah.
It's how we measure the film. It's not an exact measurement, though. It's not like the metric system or anything like that, though. You know, it's not that exact, unfortunately, because sometimes they all pop up in one scene together, and that doesn't mean the movie's over. It just means that we've already had three Bobs in the scene, you know? So it's not exact. It's not an exact science, the Bob measuring system. But they're in a lot of Bob's movies. They played priests, I think, in one movie. I think Bite School, where they're like actually hunting down vampires. Mm-hmm. So.
You sound like you have a lot of fun on these movies, but I was wondering, what's your worst film experience, or do you have one?
Oh, that's a good one. I guess the worst experiences are like just like when you're really freezing cold and you're wearing like almost no clothing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're covered in fake blood, slime and stuff. That's never that much fun. Those are probably, it's part of acting. It's not glamorous, but sometimes that could be difficult that you're spending hours and hours. I guess we'll say Perseveration, a movie I did. I'm bent over a chair getting beaten by a baseball bat covered in barbed wire.
Okay.
And they have my back covered with this apparatus that's made to look like my back is getting ripped apart and blood shooting everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a heavy apparatus. And I'm bent over this chair supporting my full body weight on my arms.
Yeah.
For a couple of hours.
Oh, wow.
And trying not to move around too much because the thing on my back will fall off. And it's expensive.
Yeah.
And it's covered in blood. So that was kind of annoying. So by the time we were done shooting, we stopped shooting because after a couple hours, I could no longer support my body weight and my arms were actually like shaking, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's the glamorous world of acting. So just remember that story, guys and girls, before you decide to become an actor, because acting is not as glamorous as you think. When you're on the red carpet and you're at the premiere and you're getting your picture taken and you're having a nice dinner with everybody, that's when it's glamorous. But when you're actually shooting the film, it's not glamorous, you know? It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of uncomfortable moments, you know? And it's a lot of suffering for your art.
When you do the conventions, what's the most interesting thing you've ever been asked to sign?
Someone's penis.
Oh, seriously?
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you have me going.
No, I'm just kidding. His penis wasn't that interesting.
Oh. I don't even...
I've seen much more interesting penises than that one.
Were you asked to sign a penis?
No. I haven't been asked to sign a penis.
Okay.
No. Nobody's asked me to sign anything that interesting, actually. Everybody, I'm just being funny. And I haven't signed anybody's butt or breasts or anything like that, which is sad. Normally, I just sign like pictures. Sometimes people bring their own pictures or memorabilia and have me sign it. Sometimes people buy pictures from me and I sign them. I sign movies and DVDs and stuff. Nobody's asked me to sign anything that weird, though. So, maybe one day, maybe I just haven't reached that level of fame yet where I'm going to be signing penises, buttholes, and breasts.
Oh, I'm going to try to get you to Horrorama. Now I know what I'll get you to sign.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I usually sign posters and stuff like that. Maybe somebody's afraid I'm going to, report them to security and get them hauled off. you know.
Yeah, I'm not that extreme. Usually, I'd probably get that one with you in the chainsaw sign. That's a great picture.
Yeah, that is a good picture. I got to get more copies of that, in fact, because I think I ran out. That was like such a popular one. Thank you for
Yes.
reminding me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing the Chiller Theater Horror Convention as a guest soon, so I want to make sure I'm stocked up on my pictures for that.
I'm going to have to bring up to Chris Alexander and Louise Cerise that, excuse me, you're in New York, because I think it'd be great to have you at Horrorama, so I think I'm going to pitch that.
Please do. I would love to hang out with the Canadians. Canadian people are adorable, especially the men. They're really cute. And they're so polite and sweet and everything, you know?
Yeah.
They are. But if you have a crush on them, you just got to, just jump right on them, because Canadian guys aren't very forward. You know?
Yeah.
You're not like Italian men, where you have to, kind of beat them off with a stick, you know?
Yeah.
Canadian men, you have to just jump on them. You have to pounce. If you like them, pounce on them.
I don't know. I'm waiting for you and James Balsamo to do a really twisted 50 Shades of Grey in the cornfield.
Oh, wow. Well, you'll have to, broach that topic with him. 50 Shades of Grey. I saw that movie. Yeah.
No, but we want to see the Balsamo version.
But I want to be Jason Grey, and he can be, the chick. That'll be cool. We'll reverse it. We'll reverse the genders.
You can make him submit.
Oh, my God. And we could have a scene where I'm, waxing James, because he's kind of hairy. Ripping all of his back hair and chest hair off. And he's like, no, but it feels so good. No, but it feels so good. Yeah, that could be a scene. We'll have to talk to him about that. That'd be pretty hilarious.
There you go.
There's something he did for BuzzFeed where someone was shaving a heart into his back hair, and I'll never forget that. It was this image of someone shaving a heart into James's back hair. I remember that. It's a romantic moment for James on the silver screen. James is a funny guy. James is actually, I think, part Irish and part Italian. Pretty interesting. So he can celebrate St. Patrick's Day as well as Columbus Day, which is pretty cool. I can't do that. It's sad, really. But, love James. He's my paisan. I always love working with him. I wish him the best in L.A. with all of his crazy adventures. I love being in New York City, but I love visiting L.A. I love the weather. I love Venice Beach. I love the acting work. I love all my actor friends. I miss it there, and look forward to going out there hopefully soon for more acting work. I go out there periodically to shoot some things, So.
Yes. And you and I are in a couple movies together, and that's pretty cool. And I don't get traveling too much due to work, but nonetheless, you have an Indiegogo or something for Killer Chickens?
No, we have a producer funding the film fully.
Okay.
And we have a production company, Cluck Cluck Productions, is funding the film.
Okay.
And like that. So we're not doing an Indiegogo or anything like that.
Okay.
Maybe down the road or something like that. But if anybody wants to send me money, you can PayPal me at bluegirl810@live.com. Just send me money. I like it. I also send autographed pictures. You could PayPal me, and I'll send you an autographed picture. I could send you an autographed movie. An autographed picture is $20. I have all different kinds of pictures that I can send. I could do a very personal greeting for you, and then I'll send it out to you. And usually I send a little thank you note and things like that, too. And, and there you go. And, one day that'll be worth probably millions of dollars, my autographed picture,
There you go.
Because I'm skyrocketing to fame, and pretty soon I'm going to be the most famous person in the galaxy.
There you go.
So that's an investment. Buy that for $20 and put that away for your retirement fund. So pretty exciting. So people PayPal me all the time. I send out pictures. Love to do it. Some people collect my pictures. I have a lot of pictures that one can buy, sign. Collect them all, and I have DVDs. I even have T-shirts. Genoveva Rossi Horror Queen T-shirts that are $25. I could sign one of those and send it out. you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're red and black. They're pretty cool.
Wow.
And yeah. So I have those. I've sold a bunch of them, but I still have some left because I ordered quite a bit when I got them because it's cheaper the more you order at the time. So that's pretty exciting. And I like to, and I'm always more comfortable hanging out with people when they're wearing T-shirts with me on them.
Oh, okay.
Makes me feel like they're on my team. Like we'll play softball, and they're all on the Genoveva Rossi Horror Queen team.
Yep.
So, yeah. So, and I love it when people check out my website, check out my social media. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. I update them every week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also check out my IMDb. I think I have 99 or 100 film credits right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my theater credits up there. I have my acting reels up there that you can check out. You can go on YouTube and Google me and look at some of my past interviews. Got all this cool stuff going on. It's pretty exciting. And look for Attack of the Killer Chickens, the movie, probably early next year.
Yeah, I have your interview up on my YouTube channel, the first one we did.
Awesome. And I'm sure you've had billions and billions of people listen to it. Billions.
Actually, your number.
What James Balsamo films are you in specifically?
I'm in 2 right now. Cool as Hell 2, and I want it wants blood, and I think he wants me to do Catch of the Day 2 as well.
I'm not yet, and it wants blood as far as I know.
Well, you're listed in it.
Am I?
Yeah, I believe so.
Are you positive I'm listed in it wants blood?
Just a second, I'll go down here and check. Maybe you're not. Jeepers, maybe you're not.
Because I don't remember shooting that with him, so I don't think I'm in it.
Damn it.
Well, maybe next time I'm in LA or he's out here, we'll see what happens. Because like I said, it's difficult now because we're on 2 different coasts. So sometimes working out the logistics of working together can be a little challenging.
Well, I don't travel either. Like, the only reason he got me is because he just asked me to shoot it on my phone. It was like, it was something easy that I was able to do,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's something to think about. Yeah. I'll have to think about if there's any way to do that for our films. I'd like to get something more sizable out of him, though, than that. And I'm sure he'd like to have me have a bigger part than that. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do because life is life. I'm trying to see if I'm going to be going out to LA soon. I submitted for a whole bunch of work out there, and now I'm kind of waiting to see what happens. I submit for a huge amount of work, and then you just got to kind of see what ends up happening, what doesn't end up happening.
Yeah, you're not listed. Funding. You're not listed here for it at all. I know you're part of Cool as Hell 2, so.
Yeah, and I'm in The Lich, and I'm in Killer Waves, and I'm in Catch of the Day, and I'm in all these other crazy movies. But I can't always be in every movie, especially since now he moved out to LA, and he's a busy beaver as it was,
Yeah.
And working with a lot of LA-based actors and things like that, so. He's not around in the New York City area that much anymore, and he used to always be around, and he was very easy to work with and stuff like that. I would always see James, and we would hang out and eat and do movies and watch movies and, and I would go to, like, the little after parties and the rap parties, films and stuff like that, and his birthday party. But now he's in L.A. It's not so easy to go see James as it used to be.
Yeah.
I can still talk to him on Facebook and talk to him on the phone every now and then, but it's not the same. It's not the same at all.
No.
Oh, God. I have separation. I was a little sad when he picked up and moved to L.A., but I understand. The weather is the biggest reason to move out there for me. I like warm weather, and I like the beach,
Yeah.
Part of me would like to buy myself, like, a little house in Palm Springs or something and just live out in the desert,
Yeah.
Water my cacti, and then drive over to the beach on weekends, and have that just be my life,
Yeah.
I like the desert because I don't have to mow the lawn. I don't have to do any landscaping.
Nope.
I don't have to shovel any snow,
Nope.
I like that. I just rake my sand, water my cactus, once a year, and you're set. Because I'm kind of a lazy person when it comes to doing chores on that.
Same here.
Yeah, that appeals to me on a lot of levels. So, so maybe one day I'll move out somewhere warm. I hate the winter. I hate the snow. That's why I can't live in Canada. I love you Canadian people, and I love your culture and your food, your poutine, or whatever the hell it is.
Mm-hmm.
Your accent. And
Yeah.
your cutie pies.
Yeah.
But, the only place in Canada I could ever move is Vancouver, because it's still kind of warm.
What, you couldn't move here to New Brunswick, right next door to me?
It's too cold, dude. Too cold.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no. Genoveva Rossi and cold weather does not really mix that well. New York City is about as cold as I could take.
Mm-hmm.
I can't take any colder than that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I went to Vancouver in December for 2 weeks, and that wasn't so bad. It rains, doesn't really snow. It's like 50 degrees. Sometimes it went up to 70. I could live with that. It's kind of like Seattle weather, I could do that, So if I was going to move to Canada and marry some cute Canadian guy, he better be from Vancouver. So if anybody listening to this is a cute Canadian guy from Vancouver that would like to marry me, hey, reach out. So, make it happen. Make it happen. And then I'll move out to Vancouver and eat poutine with you, and we can, have fun, eh?
Hey, I bet you'd be wild, too.
Yeah, we'll wander a boot town together.
Yeah.
Say different things, Okay, eh? And have a good time, eh?
You need to get the Trailer Park Boys in your movie.
Yeah, maybe I do. And I need to find a Canadian husband. So if anybody here is listening and they're Canadian, find me and we'll hook up and get married. What I like about Canadians is that you guys are real polite. I like that in a person. We're very well mannered.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little passive aggressive. Oh my God, that's a funny story. When I was in Toronto, I was in Little Italy, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, these Canadian people are so polite. But then this Italian person said, they're like, yeah, they're polite, but they're passive aggressive. They don't really say what's on their mind. They just act all polite. Because Italian people, we pretty much say what's on our mind. We're not really passive aggressive. We're just aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're aggressive. Sexually aggressive and other things too.
Yep.
I went to Rome. Everybody is like, oh my God, I got to go back to Rome, because everybody's really good looking in Rome, and everybody's trying to have sex in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
That's Italian people. Italian people are good looking, and we're all trying to get laid. Which is a great combination. That's why I recommend going to Italy. Italian people are the sexiest people and also very attractive people, and we're not prejudiced. We'll definitely have sex with people of different backgrounds. You don't have to be Italian,
Mm-hmm.
We'll say hey, you have any Italian in you? You want some? And then we'll put it in you. You know what I'm saying? Yep.
Well.
But yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Greg. I really enjoyed myself, and try to get me out to that convention in Toronto, and then we could hang out. All right, dude?
Yeah, we could do that. I was wondering if before you go, you do a plug for my show.
I'm Genoveva Rossi, and I'm here with Greg Gilbert, listening to Python Paradise out of New Brunswick, Canada.
Absolutely. Yes, we love Genoveva Rossi. And we got to get that 50 Shades of Grey, James Balsamo, Genoveva Rossi movie made.
Like I said, we have to reverse the gender, and then I have to wax him.
She's going to wax his ass.
Experience,
She's going to wax his ass. Huh?
I want to whip him, and I want to put a little dog collar on him and walk him and stuff, But I'll make it fun. James will enjoy every moment. every second of it. Okay?
Sure.
But let's do it. Let's do it.
Yep. And eventually I got to put his Doubtfire challenge up because he did throw that out to you.
Uh-oh. I have to get a cream pie. All right. Remind me, dude. All right?
I'll do that. I think you make that interesting.
Okay. And then I look forward to hopefully coming out to Toronto and seeing you soon. I miss Toronto. It's a great city. All right, dude?
Yep. Well, you know what? When you got any projects coming up in the future, I'd be more than happy to have you back on.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, you take care and you have a wonderful day and behave yourself.
I try, but not too hard. Okay, take care now.
Yep, bye-bye.
Bye.